The people in the company all said I was President Qin Ruoshuang's most loyal dog. Until I personally heard her say, "Lin Feng, I'm sick of even looking at him. I've already transferred him to the Northwest, out of sight, out of mind." That moment, I woke up. The end of a simping dog is the wind and sand of the Northwest. But I didn't expect that when I was drifting my wooling Hongguang on the Gobi Desert, Qin Ruoshuang, in high heels, actually chased after me. "Lin Feng, I'm sick of even looking at him, always following me around. I've already transferred him to the Northwest branch, out of sight, out of mind." Under the Champagne Tower, the air was filled with elegant clothes and beautiful hair. Qin Ruoshuang's voice wasn't loud, but it was like an ice-cold awl, precisely piercing my eardrums. I was holding a glass of red wine, standing in the shadows of a corner, my whole body frozen in place. The liquid in the glass swayed, reflecting her cold and beautiful profile. She was clinking glasses with her best friend, Su Xiao, a hint of faint sarcasm on her lips. I, Lin Feng, the first assistant to Qin Ruoshuang, the president of Qin's group. In the eyes of everyone in the company, I am her sharpest knife, her most loyal shadow. They don't know that I've been in love with her for 8 years since the first time I saw her in college. For her, I gave up a full scholarship to a prestigious foreign university and joined Qin's group immediately after graduation, climbing from the bottom to her side. She has a bad stomach, so my office drawer is always stocked with 3 different brands of stomach medicine and hot towels. She's a neat freak, so I come to the company half an hour early every day to wipe every corner of her office with alcohol. She casually mentioned wanting to eat osmanthus cake from the south of the city, so I drove across the entire city in a rainstorm to buy it, not even bothering to drink water when I got back because she doesn't like eating cold things. I thought that people's hearts were made of flesh, that even an iceberg would eventually be warmed. Like the most devout believer, I made my pilgrimage day after day, believing that I would eventually receive a trace of divine pity. As a result, the deity just found me, the believer kneeling at the door every day, a bit of an eyesore. Sick of even looking at him. Out of sight, out of mind. These 10 words were like 10 loud slaps, making me dizzy and disoriented. So my 8 years of dedication were only worth the word annoying in her eyes. So my so-called fighting side by side was just an annoying tag-along in her opinion. So the treasure I carefully guarded was just garbage discarded by others. I felt like my heart was being squeezed hard by an invisible hand, hurting so much that I could hardly breathe. The blood rushed to my head, then cooled through my limbs in an instant. My fingernails dug deep into my palm, leaving several pale crescent marks. I looked at her, laughing and talking not far away, and suddenly smiled. I laughed at myself for being like a clown, performing a one-man show that lasted for 8 years, and in the end, even the only audience member thought I had been performing for too long, too noisily. Good, really good. It's time to wake up from the dream. The end of a simping dog is either having everything or having nothing. Now it seems that I am clearly the latter. No, that's not right either. I still have the wind and sand of the Northwest. I silently turned around, placed the red wine glass, which I almost crushed on the waiter's tray, and walked out of the magnificent but suffocating banquet hall. Back in my rented small apartment, I didn't sleep all night. No pain, no tears, not even anger. Just an extreme calmness, a hollowness after a great epiphany. At dawn, I turned on the computer and spent an hour organizing all the work I had on hand, making the handover documents clear, categorized, and even making memos of Qin Ruoshuang's travel arrangement for the next 3 months and the likes and dislikes of each important client. I, Lin Feng, have always been thorough in everything I do. Even if I'm leaving, I want to leave with dignity. After doing all this, I sent Qin Ruoshuang an email. The title was Application for Northwest Branch Transfer. The content was simple. President Qin, I am applying to immediately transfer to the Northwest Branch. All work has been handed over. Details in the attachment. Thank you for your years of cultivation. Best regards. Not a single word of nonsense. Not a trace of nostalgia. Send. Shut down. Pull out the card. The world is quiet. On the plain to the northwest, I leaned against the porthole, watching the city below become smaller and smaller, eventually turning into a blurred speck. 8 years of youth, 8 years of obsession, seemed to disappear with this speck into the clouds. I suddenly felt a lightness all over my body. That feeling was like someone who had been carrying a 100-pound sack for 8 years finally threw it away. My back didn't ache, my legs didn't hurt, and even my breathing was smooth. I took out my newly bought phone, inserted the newly issued SIM card, opened the music app, and played Good Days. The loud singing rang in my headphones, and the fat brother next to me glanced at me with a look of looking at an idiot. I gave him a bright smile in return. He probably couldn't understand my mood at the moment. This is the joy of rebirth. The Northwest branch is located in an 18th-tier city that I had never even heard of. When I got off the plane, a hot wind with a dry, dusty smell swept over me. The sky was high, the clouds were white, and the sunlight was blindingly bright. The branch manager, Wang Dachui, personally came to pick me up. A middle-aged man with a receding hairline, wearing a faded old t-shirt and twirling 2 walnuts in his hand. When he saw me, he enthusiastically shook my hand. "Oh, Assistant Lin, I've finally been waiting for you. Welcome, welcome." I smiled politely. "Manager Wang is too polite. You can just call me Little Lin in the future." "Okay, Little Lin." Wang Dachui smiled. His eyes narrowed into a slit. "Let's go. I'll take you to a great meal to welcome you and wash away the dust." The so-called welcoming and washing away the dust was at a smoky roadside barbecue stall. But the sizzling lamb skewers, paired with ice-cold local beer, were actually more fragrant than any Michelin restaurant I had ever eaten at. Wang Dachui introduced the situation of the branch company to me while eating skewers. "Our place is characterized by one word, leisure. There are a total of 20 or so people, and the main business is to maintain the relationship with a few local old customers. There's nothing major happening all year round. Work hours are from 9 to 5, with a 2-hour lunch break, weekends off, and all statutory holidays are observed." He lowered his voice and said to me mysteriously, "To tell you the truth, Little Lin, in our place, people watch dramas, play games, and even knit sweaters during work hours. As long as it's not too much, I usually turn a blind eye. I listen with wide eyes. What kind of company is this? This is fucking heaven." I immediately took a big gulp of beer and excitedly patted Wang Dachui on the shoulder. "Brother Wang, you are my brother from another mother." My new workstation was by the window, and outside the window was a poplar forest. Every day, sunlight shone through the gaps in the leaves, mottled and fragmented. I made myself a cup of local specialty Babeo tea, turned on the computer, and started the slacking life I had dreamed of. On the first day, I finished watching a 50-episode TV series. On the second day, I learned to play Do Diju and bravely won second place in the company's internal Do Diju competition. The first place was the front desk girl. On the third day, I learned to play with walnuts from Wang Dachui and deeply realized the philosophical meaning of playing with walnuts is not playing with walnuts, but playing with life. On the fourth day, I spent 5,000 yuan to buy a used Wuling Hongguang with a Mount Akina driver sticker on the body and the most explosive local DJ music playing in the speakers. On the weekend, I drove my beloved car, taking a few colleagues in the company who were equally bored to see the sunset in the Gobi Desert tens of kilometers away. We sat on the roof of the car, drinking beer, bragging, and watching a huge red sun slowly sink into the horizon, dyeing the entire sky a magnificent orange red. At that moment, I felt like I owned the whole world. Fuck you, Qin Ruoshuang. Fuck you, President's assistant. I am now the Mount Akina driver, the uninhibited wanderer on the Gobi Desert. I even started to thank Qin Ruoshuang. Thank you for your no annoyance in the past, which allowed me to have this wonderful life now. If I could, I would really like to build a longevity tablet for her, burn incense 3 times in the morning and evening to thank her for her great kindness. Such a wonderful life passed for a month. I had completely adapted to the slow pace of life here, and even gained 5 pounds. I was about to forget Qin Ruoshuang completely. Until that afternoon, I was wearing headphones, engrossed in watching a new movie, when the office phone on the desk suddenly rang. I lazily took off the headphones and glanced at the caller ID. Headquarters, President's office. My heart skipped a beat. A bad premonition welled up in my heart. No way. I've hidden myself in this godforsaken place, and they still won't let me go. I hesitated for a moment, but still answered the phone. Hello. The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds, and then a cold and familiar voice that was etched in my memory came through. Lin Feng. My heart missed a beat, and then returned to normal. President Qin, is there anything I can do for you? My tone was polite and distant, as if I was talking to a complete stranger of a client. There was another silence on the other end of the phone. I could even hear her slightly rapid breathing. After a long while, she finally spoke, her voice a little dry. How is the Northwest branch doing recently? I was stunned for a moment. Work? Do we have work here? I looked at the accountant's sister next to me, who was knitting a sweater, and Wang Dachui, who was dozing off, and lied through my teeth. Everything is going smoothly, President Qin. Everyone is very enthusiastic about their work, and the performance is steadily improving. Is that so? Qin Ruoshuang's voice was emotionless. Are you still used to it? I'm quite used to it. I told the truth. It's pretty good here, the air is good, and the colleagues are also very good. Good. She seemed to be very sensitive to this word, and her tone rose slightly. What's good about it? Everything is pretty good. I started to prevaricate. Manager Wang takes special care of me. The colleagues are also very enthusiastic, and the lamb skewers are especially delicious. The other end of the phone fell into dead silence. I suspected that she was so angry that she hung up the phone. Just as I was about to say, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up now, she spoke again. You? She paused, as if considering her words. Are you still angry with me? I laughed. President Qin, you're thinking too much. How dare I be angry with you? I'm too busy thanking you. Thank me? Yes. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to appreciate the magnificence of the great rivers and mountains of the motherland and experience a completely different life. Really, President Qin, I sincerely thank you. I spoke with sincerity and emotion. Qin Ruoshuang on the other end of the phone was completely silent. After a full minute, she said in an almost gritted voice, Lin Feng, you better work hard for me. Then, with a snap, she hung up the phone. I put down the receiver and shrugged. Inexplicable. However, this was just the beginning. From that day on, Qin Ruoshuang's phone calls became my daily routine. Sometimes it was late at night, and I had just sat down at the barbecue stall when her call came, asking me why it's so noisy. Sometimes it was early in the morning, and I was still asleep when her call came, asking me why I didn't answer the phone. The most outrageous time was at a company video conference. At a meeting of hundreds of people, she suddenly named me. Lin Feng from the Northwest branch. Please report on your work. I was shrinking in a corner looking at a novel on my phone when Wang Dachui elbowed me awake, and I stood up looking confused. On the screen, Qin Ruoshuang's flawlessly beautiful face was as cold as ice. Lin Feng, I ask you, why are there typos in your branch's customer maintenance report from the last quarter? I was dumbfounded. That report was written by the accountant's sister. I just signed it. How would I know there were typos? Everyone in the company looked at me with sympathetic eyes, thinking that I, the former president's assistant who had been exiled, was going to be dragged out and publicly executed. I cleared my throat and was about to say a few words of self-criticism. Qin Ruoshuang spoke again. Also, where you live, is the heating enough? I heard it's very cold at night in the Northwest. The whole place was dead silent. Everyone stared wide-eyed, looking at the female president on the screen who was asking about the heating in such a serious manner. The style changed so quickly that everyone's minds were a bit overwhelmed. I was even more confused. What does this woman want to do? I started to think that Qin Ruoshuang might have some problems with her brain. Until a week later, Wang Dachui rushed into my office in a panic. Xiao Lin, something big happened. I was studying the new floor mats for the Wuling Hong Wang and looked up when I heard this. What's wrong, Brother Wang? Is the company bankrupt? It's even more serious than that. Wang Dachui wiped a handful of sweat and lowered his voice. People from headquarters are coming. They said they're coming to inspect the work. Who is it? I asked with little interest. President Qin. President Qin is coming in person. The floor mats in my hand thudded and fell to the ground. Qin Ruoshuang, what's she doing here? What's so good about this broken place to inspect? Inspect our knitting speed or our do diju level? Wang Dachui was so anxious that he was pacing around in circles. What should we do, Shaolin? We're as messy as a pigsty here. President Qin will skin us alive if she sees it. You used to be by President Qin's side. You know her best. Give me an idea. What kind of idea can I give? I wish you would fire me quickly, so I can take the compensation and open a barbecue stall. I slowly picked up the floor mats and said calmly, take it as it comes. What are you afraid of? That being said, the entire branch was still in an uproar. Everyone quickly put away their novels, wool, and playing cards, and opened the work software that hadn't been touched in 100 years, pretending to be diligent and hardworking. Wang Dachui even personally led people to clean up, even poking the cobwebs on the ceiling. We waited from morning to afternoon, until the sun was almost setting and still didn't see President Qin's shadow. Wang Dachui made several phone calls to ask, and they all said that President Qin's car was already on the way. It's strange. It's at most an hour's drive from the airport to here. How come it's taken almost half a day? Wang Dachui wondered. I was also a little puzzled. Just as I was thinking about it, my personal phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered it. Hello. A weak and angry voice came from the other end of the phone with a sob. Lin Feng, are you even human? As soon as I heard this voice, I almost threw the phone away. It was Qin Ruoshuang. President Qin? Where are you? Where am I? I'm on a fucking Gobi desert. Qin Ruoshuang's voice sounded like she was about to break down. The driver is a newbie, doesn't know the way, and the car broke down halfway. There's no signal on my phone either. I walked 5 kilometers to find a little signal to call you. You get your ass over here right now. I hung up the phone, and my whole person was in a surreal state. President Qin, wearing a haute couture suit, stepping on 10-centimeter high heels, walking 5 kilometers on the Gobi Desert. The picture is too beautiful. I can't imagine it. I told Wang Dachui and drove my beloved Wuling Hongwang all the way. According to Qin Ruoshuang's intermittent descriptions, I finally found her on a deserted dirt road. The brand new black Audi she sent to pick her up was awkwardly stuck in a sandpit, and our CEO Qin was sitting on a rock by the roadside, looking utterly hopeless. Her Chanel suit was covered in dust, her hair was a mess in the wind, and there were 2 black streaks on her face. I didn't know if they were smudges or from crying. One heel of her expensive Jimmy Choo high heels was broken. She looked as wretched as could be. I stopped my Wuling Hongwang in front of her, rolled down the window, and whistled. Yo, CEO Qin, long time no see. That's quite a look you've got there. Qin Ruoshuang looked up, saw me, my Wuling Hongwang, and the We Cure the Unconvinced sticker on the car, and froze for 3 seconds. Then, her beautiful eyes instantly turned red. Lin Feng, you bastard. She cursed and limped towards me, opened the car door, and got in. Looking at her disheveled appearance, the little bit of resentment I had left in my heart suddenly dissipated, leaving only a little urge to laugh. I held back my laughter and handed her a bottle of mineral water. CEO Qin, have some water, moisten your throat, so you can keep scolding me. She snatched the water, glared at me fiercely, and then gulped down more than half the bottle. I started the car, and the cheesy DJ music started playing again. That's the feel, so refreshing. Qin Ruoshuang's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. She sat in the passenger seat, looking at the desolate scenery flashing past the window without saying a word. I saw in the rearview mirror that she secretly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I drove my Wuling Hongwang, carrying a dusty Qin Ruoshuang, and parked in front of the office building amidst the shocked gazes of all the company employees. Wang Dachui rushed out with a group of people, and they were all petrified when they saw Qin Ruoshuang getting out of my car. The image they had envisioned was CEO Qin walking out a luxury car, surrounded by a group of black-suited bodyguards, exuding the aura of a queen. Not like this, like a village girl returning from a disaster, riding in a wuling Hongguang that was about to fall apart. Wang Dachui's mouth opened and closed, and finally stammered out, CEO? CEO Qin, have you suffered much? Qin Ruoshuang's face flushed and paled. She glared at me fiercely, then straightened her back, trying her best to maintain her last bit of dignity, and said coldly, "The car just broke down. Manager Wang, take me to the conference room." "Oh, okay. Wang Dachui woke up as if from a dream and quickly led the way. I followed behind, looking at Qin Ruoshuang's limping back, almost bursting out laughing. The so-called work inspection naturally became a farce. Qin Ruoshuang sat in the conference room, listening to Wang Dachui read through 2 hours of PPTs with a straight face, completely absent-minded. Her eyes always unconsciously glanced towards me, and I sat upright, staring straight ahead, thinking about which barbecue stall to go to tonight. After the meeting, Wang Dachui suggested holding a welcome dinner. Qin Ruoshuang refused without thinking, citing travel fatigue, need to rest. She designated me to take her to the hotel. I had no choice but to drive my wuling Hongguang again. In the car, Qin Ruoshuang changed into a clean outfit, but her complexion was still poor. She looked out the window and suddenly asked, "Lin Feng, do you drive this kind of car here?" "Yeah." I patted the steering wheel, proudly saying, "It's cheap, durable, and spacious. It's convenient for carrying people and goods. Everyone here has one." She was silent. After a while, she asked again, "Do you live in a company dormitory?" "Yeah, it's pretty good, close to the company and free." She was silent again. The atmosphere in the car was a bit oppressive. I made conversation. "CEO Qin, what's the matter with this trip? You wouldn't really just be here for a work inspection, would you?" Qin Ruoshuang turned her head and looked at me intently. "I came to see you, to see how you're doing." Her voice was soft, with a hint of imperceptible grievance. My heart skipped a beat, and then I laughed self-deprecatingly. "To see how I'm doing." She came to see how miserable I am, to satisfy her little bit of control, right? I parked the car in front of the hotel and said in a calm tone, "I'm doing very well. No need for CEO Qin to worry. You should get some rest." After saying that, I wanted to get out of the car, but she suddenly grabbed my wrist. Her hand was cold, but her grip was strong. "Lin Feng." She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. Can't you not treat me like this?" I looked at her, my heart filled with mixed feelings. "CEO Qin, how am I treating you? I am your subordinate now. You are my superior. Isn't this how it should be between us?" "No, it's not," she said urgently. "We weren't like this before. That was before." I gently shook off her hand. Before I didn't understand things. Now I do. I got out of the car and walked away without looking back. I was afraid that if I stayed for another second, the defenses I had worked so hard to build would be shattered by her pitiful appearance. What I didn't know was that after I left, the entire branch company exploded. Gossip about me and Qin Ruoshuang spread in more than a dozen versions. The most widespread version was, I, Lin Feng, was originally the young master of a declining family in the capital, and Qin Ruoshuang, the daughter of the Qin group, were childhood sweethearts, deeply in love. But because the family opposed it, I was forced to go far away to this small northwestern town to live in anonymity. And Qin Ruoshuang was deeply in love with me, not hesitating to chase after her husband from 1,000 miles away, staging a modern version of domineering CEO seeks love. When I heard this version from the Andy in the company's tea room the next day, I almost spat out the 8 treasure tea in my mouth. I seriously suspected that the people in our branch company were all reading CEO novels while slacking off at work. Qin Ruoshuang stayed at the hotel for 2 days. During these 2 days, she didn't come to the company or call me. I thought she had figured it out and was preparing to go back home. But at noon on the 3rd day, I was eating in the cafeteria when the front desk girl suddenly ran over to me with a gossipy look on her face. "Brother Lin, Someone's looking for you. Who is it? A delivery guy. Says it's your takeout. Specifically wants you to pick it up in person. I was baffled. I didn't order takeout. I walked to the company gate, and sure enough, I saw a person wearing a yellow uniform from some food delivery platform, wearing a helmet and mask, covering themselves up tightly. The person was holding an exquisite insulated lunchbox, which looked out of place in my surroundings. You are Lin Feng? The person opened their mouth, the voice deliberately lowered, sounding a little strange. That's me, but I didn't order takeout. Did you deliver to the wrong person? That's right. It's yours. The person shoved the lunchbox into my hand. Miss Qin. Oh, a Miss Qin ordered it for you. 5-star review, oh dear. I looked at the lunchbox in my hand, and then at the person in front of me who was tall and had long legs, not looking like an ordinary delivery person at all, and a ridiculous thought rose in my mind. I tentatively asked, Master, your helmet must be pretty hot, right? Take it off and cool down. The delivery person's body obviously stiffened. No, not hot. I'm used to it. I have another order to deliver. I'm leaving, they said, and were about to run. I grabbed their arm. Stop pretending, CEO Qin. Her body completely froze. There were already passing colleagues pointing and whispering. I sighed and pulled her into the nearby grove. She took off her helmet, revealing Qin Ruoshuang's face, which was flushed red. How did you know it was me? She was a little angry and embarrassed. I pointed to the Patek Philippe watch worth millions on her wrist. Master, next time you come out to experience life, remember to change all of your equipment. Which delivery person wears this thing to deliver food? Qin Ruoshuang's face turned even redder. She stammered for a long time, and finally pushed the lunchbox into my arms. I was afraid you wouldn't be used to the food here, so I specifically had the hotel chef make it for you. Eat it or don't, I don't care. I opened the lunchbox. Inside were some of my favorite dishes, and they were still steaming. To be honest, it would be a lie to say I wasn't touched. But the moment I thought of the things she had said before, that little bit of emotion vanished instantly. I closed the lunchbox and handed it back to her. President Qin, thank you for your kindness, but it's really not necessary. The cafeteria food is quite good. I'm used to it. What do you mean? Her eyes were red again. Lin Feng, do you have to be so formal with me? President Qin, we were always formal. As I was saying this, the newly arrived security guard of the company came over with a baton. The guard was over 60, full of energy, and extremely principled. He sized up Qin Ruoshuang, who was wearing a takeout uniform, with a wary expression. Hey, what are you doing? Lurking around here. Qin Ruoshuang was startled by a shout. I'm delivering takeout. Delivering takeout? The guard raised his baton and pointed at her. I've been watching you for a while, getting all close and personal with our company's little Lin. Are you here to collect debts? Let me tell you, we don't allow that in our company. Get out of here. Otherwise, I'll call the police. I'm not. Qin Ruoshuang couldn't explain herself. Still saying you're not. Look at how suspicious you are. The guard was relentless. Do you have a health certificate? Take it out and let me see. Qin Ruoshuang was completely dumbfounded. I was holding back my laughter until I was about to have internal injuries. Seeing that the guard was really about to take out his phone to call the police, I quickly went up to smooth things over. Uncle Zhang, it's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. This is a distant cousin, joking around with me. Cousin. Uncle Zhang looked at the two of us suspiciously. Your cousin dresses like this? Hey, performance art, I blurted out. After much persuasion, I finally managed to send Uncle Zhang away. Qin Ruoshuang stood there, her face alternating between green and white, probably never having suffered such humiliation in her life. Looking at her wanting to cry, but not daring to cry, I sighed. President Qin, you should go back. This place is really not suitable for you. After saying that, I turned and left. Behind me, her voice, filled with sobs, called out, Lin Feng, you stop right there. I didn't stop. That afternoon, the gossip on the company's internal forum was updated again. The latest version was, Lin Feng, am actually a kept man by a wealthy woman. Because I had a change of heart, I angered the wealthy woman. Unable to swallow her anger, the wealthy woman traveled a long distance, disguised herself as a delivery person to block me at the company, and was caught on the spot by the righteous security guard. Looking at the detailed post and the hundreds of replies below asking for the wealthy woman's contact information, I silently closed the webpage. This life, it's impossible to live. Qin Ruoshuang quieted down for 2 days after the delivery person incident. I thought that after suffering such a heavy blow, she should pack her luggage and flee this heartbreaking place where she lost all face. However, I underestimated her perseverance. On Friday afternoon, Wang Dachui found me and mysteriously said, "Little Lin, there's an activity tonight. Want to go together?" What activity? The town is holding a bonfire party to celebrate the harvest festival. It's very lively. There's whole roasted lamb and lots of pretty young girls. Wang Dachui winked at me. When I heard there was whole roasted lamb, I immediately perked up. After getting off work that evening, I drove my Wuling Hongguang, carrying Wang Dachui and a few colleagues, straight to the town square. The square was crowded with people, and a huge bonfire was burning in the center, crackling loudly. The air was filled with the aroma of roasted meat and the laughter of people. We found a place to sit down, eating meat and drinking heartily. The atmosphere was very lively. After a few rounds of drinks, a colleague suddenly poked me. "Hey, Brother Lin, look at that beauty over there. Isn't she been looking at you?" I followed the direction he pointed. Not far away, a woman wearing a bohemian long dress and delicate makeup was standing gracefully in the crowd. Although the light was dim, I recognized her at a glance. Qin Ruoshuang. The lamb in my mouth instantly lost its flavor. Why is she so persistent? She saw me looking over, gave me a smile that she thought was charming, and then, holding a glass of wine, walked towards me with elegant steps. The scene was like a romantic encounter between the male and female protagonists in an idol drama in a foreign land. However, before she reached me, she was stopped by an enthusiastic village chief. The village chief, his face flushed from drinking, grabbed Qin Ruoshuang's hand and wouldn't let go. "Oh, beautiful woman, are you a celebrity who came to attend our party?" Qin Ruoshuang was stunned. "Celebrity?" "That's right." The village chief pointed to the stage. "We invited actors from the county's cultural troupe to help out tonight. Are you one of them too? You're really good looking." Qin Ruoshuang's face turned green. "I'm not." "Oh, don't be modest." The village chief dragged her towards the stage without explanation. Come, since you're here, perform a show for our fellow villagers." Everyone says okay or not. When the surrounding villagers saw a beautiful woman, they immediately started to make a fuss. "Okay, give us one." Qin Ruoshuang was placed on the stage, with a sea of people below, and the spotlight was shining on her. She was completely dumbfounded. I was sitting below, almost spitting out my wine. What the hell is this development? The host, who also didn't mind the excitement, handed the microphone to Qin Ruoshuang. "This beautiful woman, what kind of show do you want to perform for everyone? Singing or dancing?" Qin Ruoshuang, holding the microphone, was shaking her hand, looked at me for help. I pretended not to see and focused on gnawing on the lamb leg. "Looking at me? I can't save you either." Qin Ruoshuang was so anxious that she was about to cry, stammering for a long time, but couldn't say a word. At this moment, the village chief spoke again. "I heard that girls from the city are very talented. How about performing chest-breaking rocks for us?" The whole place burst into laughter. Qin Ruoshuang's face had turned from green to purplish red. Finally, someone shouted, "Let her split a brick. That's easy." This proposal was unanimously approved by everyone. So, in the expectation of the whole village, 2 red bricks were carried onto the stage. Qin Ruoshuang looked at the 2 bricks, then looked at the enthusiastic villagers under the stage, and me, who was burying myself in the meat, gritted her teeth, stomped her feet, and actually went all out. She took off her high heels, took a deep breath, gathered her strength, and slapped down with one palm. With a crisp sound of snap. The brick didn't break. The whole place was silent. Then Qin Ruoshuang gave a miserable scream of ow and squatted down, holding her hand. I couldn't bear it anymore. I sprayed out a mouthful of wine, choking and coughing earth-shatteringly. Wang Dachui patted my back while sighing. This girl, she's really honest. In the end, this farce ended with Qin Ruoshuang being sent to the town's clinic. When I went to see her, she was sitting on the hospital bed, her right hand wrapped like a rice dumpling, her eyes red and swollen. Seeing me, she turned her head to the side and ignored me. Looking at her aggrieved look, I was both angry and amused. I put a hot roasted sweet potato on her bedside. President Qin, why are you doing this? She didn't speak. You are the president of the dignified Qin group, not a street performer. Splitting bricks is not suitable for you. She still didn't speak. I sighed and sat in the chair next to her. Qin Ruoshuang, what exactly do you want? Tell me, what exactly do you want? She finally turned her head, tears falling like broken beads. Lin Feng, I want you to come back, she said, choking with sobs. I want you to come back to my side. My heart trembled fiercely. I want you back by my side. Qin Ruoshuang's voice was choked with sobs, echoing in the silent hospital room. I looked at her tear-streaked face and the hand wrapped like a rice dumpling, my heart a tangled mess. Once upon a time, those were the very words I dreamed of hearing. But now that I actually heard them, I couldn't feel happy at all. I only felt it was absurd, laughable. President Qin, have you forgotten that you were the one who said you were tired of looking at me, which is why you transfer me here? I reminded her. That was. She was anxious to explain, but didn't know where to begin, and finally could only say weakly, I was just saying it out of anger. Out of anger? I laughed. A single angry remark negates my 8 years of effort. A single angry remark exiles me to this place thousands of miles away. President Qin, don't you think your angry words are too hurtful? My voice wasn't loud, but every word was like a needle, piercing her heart. Her face turned pale, her lips moved, but she couldn't say a word. A long silence fell over the hospital room. Looking at her, I suddenly felt very bored. We've been entangled for so long, resented each other for so long, but in the end, what could it achieve? There was no going back. Some things, once broken, can never be pieced back together. President Qin, take care of yourself and recover. I stood up. I'll have Manager Wang book you the earliest flight tomorrow. I'm not leaving. She suddenly became agitated, grabbing the hem of my shirt. Lin Feng, don't make me leave. I beg you, give me another chance, okay? She looked up, her eyes full of pleading. The aloof, ice-cold president was now as humble as a child who had done something wrong. I admit my heart softened. 8 years of feelings couldn't be let go of so easily. Looking at her like this, how could I remain unmoved? I took a deep breath, suppressed the turmoil in my heart, and tried to speak in a calm tone. Qin Ruoshuang, calm down. The problems between us can't be solved with just a few words. Focus on recovering first. We could talk about other things later. I gently pried open her hand and walked out of the hospital room. Back in my dorm, I didn't sleep all night. My mind was full of the stupid things Qin Ruoshuang had done in the past few days. Her hiking in the Gobi Desert, her being scolded by the security guard while wearing a delivery uniform, her stubbornly breaking bricks on stage. Scene after scene played back in my mind like a movie. I began to suspect that things weren't as simple as I thought. How could a woman so proud to the core do such things for a subordinate she was tired of looking at? Could there be something I don't know? Once that thought popped up, I couldn't suppress it. The next day, against my better judgment, I didn't go to the company, but went to the hospital again. When I arrived, Qin Ruoshuang was on the phone. She was facing away from the door, her voice very low, but I still heard her clearly. Su Xiao, what terrible ideas are you giving me? What do you mean by being down to earth? What do you mean by creating romantic encounters? My hand is almost broken. I don't care. You have to give me another idea. One that will make Lin Feng immediately change his mind. I stood at the door, listening to her exasperated voice, and I was completely dumbfounded. Su Xiao, her best friend. So all of this was that mastermind behind the scenes. I suddenly remembered that day in the banquet hall. Su Xiaoxiao was standing next to Qin Ruoshuang when she said those things. Could it be? I quietly backed out of the hospital room, my heart filled with stormy waves. Su Xiaoxiao. That name was like a key, instantly unlocking all my doubts. I suddenly remembered that Qin Ruoshuang, although decisive in the business world, was an idiot when it came to dealing with personal relationships. Her only relationship consultant was her unreliable best friend, Su Xiaoxiao. And Su Xiaoxiao was a fanatical romance novel enthusiast, her head filled with all sorts of overbearing CEO and Cinderella tropes. The more I thought about it, the more I felt something was wrong. I took out my phone, hesitated, and finally dialed a number I thought I would never call again. The call was to my best friend in the headquarters, Lija. Hey, Fenye. Holy crap, you finally contacted me. Lija's voice was excited. Asia, I need a favor. I got straight to the point. What is it? Help me find out if something's been going on with President Qin recently. Lija was silent for a few seconds, then lowered his voice and said, Fengji, you finally asked. President Qin seems to be getting engaged. Engaged? My heart sank. Yeah, to that second-generation rich kid from the Zhang group, Zhang Yang. I heard the business marriage. The chairman personally approved it, and President Qin can't resist. When did this happen? It was decided not long after you left. Fengji, people in the company are saying that President Qin transferred you away to protect you, afraid that Zhang Yang would cause you trouble. That Zhang Yang is a madman. His possessiveness is insanely strong. Hanging up the phone, I stood in the hospital corridor, unable to calm down for a long time. A business marriage. Protecting me. So that's what it was. I suddenly understood. Those words Qin Ruoshuang said that day in the banquet hall weren't said to me at all. She said them deliberately for Su Xiaoxiao to hear, or rather, for certain people who wanted to hear them. She used the most hurtful way to push me away, push me to a place she thought was safe. She thought she was protecting me. That fool. The biggest fool in the world. I turned around and rushed back to the hospital room. Qin Ruoshuang was holding her phone, looking at the screen with a worried expression. On the screen was the latest Chasing Your Ex strategy sent by Su Xiaoxiao. The title was The Importance of a Bitter Flesh Strategy in Winning Back Your Ex. I snatched her phone. She was startled, looked up, saw it was me, and a look of panic appeared on her face. What did you get here? I ignored her and directly opened her chat history with Su Xiaoxiao. Starting from the first day after I left. Xiaoxiao, he's really gone, without even looking back. He must hate me. What should I do? Su Xiaoxiao replied, Don't be afraid, darling. Men are easy, they all fall for this. Leave him alone for a few days. Let him know how important you are. When he's about to forget you, you suddenly reappear and give him a surprise. So, there was Qin Ruoshuang's work inspection. Xiaoxiao, he seems to hate me even more. Su Xiaoxiao. That's because the surprise isn't enough. You have to let him see another side of you. Your vulnerability. Your adorable contrast. I suggest you cosplay like a delivery person and send him a love-filled lunch. How romantic. So, there was the delivery person social death event. Su Xiaoxiao. If I believe you again, I'm a dog. The security guard treated me like a debt collector. Su Xiaoxiao. Don't worry, don't worry. This is a tactical adjustment. It means the down-to-earth route isn't working. We have to go high-end. Create an unexpected romantic encounter. Let him see you shining brightly in the crowd. So, there was the bonfire party barehanded brick breaking. I scrolled down one by one, and by the end, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This foolish woman actually treated all of Su Xiaoxiao's terrible ideas from third-rate novels as holy scriptures, executing them meticulously. I returned the phone to her, looking at her face filled with fear and anxiety. Qin Ruoshuang. Are you stupid? Her eyes instantly turned red. Qin Ruoshuang opened her mouth, and tears uncontrollably fell. I'm not stupid. What could I do? She was like a child whose lies had been exposed, finally shedding all pretense, and breaking down, crying in front of me. My grandfather is using the company's future to force me, and that Zhang Yang is pestering me like a fly. I had no choice. I was afraid he would be harmful to you, so I could only let you go far away. The things I said would make you give up on me, to make you hate me, so you wouldn't be sad when you left. But after you left, I couldn't sleep every day. When I closed my eyes, I would see you making coffee for me, see you buying osmanthus cake for me in the pouring rain. I realized that I couldn't live without you a long time ago. Lin Feng, I was wrong, I was really wrong. She cried so hard she couldn't catch her breath. I reached out my hand, wanted to wipe away her tears, but I stopped halfway. Looking at her swollen eyes and that hand still wrapped like a rice dumpling, the softest part of my heart was severely stung. I sighed and pulled her into my arms. In my arms, she cried even harder, as if trying to cry out all the grievances and fears she had been holding back these past few days. I gently patted her back, saying nothing. The truth was revealed. There was no betrayal, no disdain, only a clumsy and misguided attempt to protect, and a huge, ridiculous misunderstanding. What else could I say? What else could I blame her for? I could only blame her for being too stupid, and blame myself for being too impatient. If I had asked one more question at the beginning, maybe there wouldn't have been so many twists and turns. After she had cried enough and her emotions had gradually calmed down, I let go of her. I looked at her swollen red eyes and said seriously, "Qin Ruoshuang, listen to me. First, that engagement is not allowed. Your business is my business. If the sky falls, I'll bear it with you. Second, you're not allowed to listen to any of Su Xiaoxiao's dumb ideas from that dog-headed advisor. Her brain is only suitable for writing novels. Third," I paused, looking at her nervous expression, and suddenly smiled. "Third, does your hand still hurt?" She was stunned for a moment, then burst into tears and laughter, gently hitting me with her uninjured hand. "It hurts like hell." The misunderstanding was resolved, and the knot in her heart was also untied. But the matter wasn't over yet. I looked at Qin Ruoshuang and said seriously, "If you want me to come back, that's fine. But there are conditions." "What conditions? Tell me." She immediately sat up straight, looking serious. "First, after I come back, you have to listen to me." "I'll listen to you," she said without hesitation. "Second, you're not allowed to carry everything alone anymore. If there are any difficulties, we'll face them together." "Okay." "Third," I deliberately dragged out the sound. "What's third?" she asked nervously. I leaned into her ear and said in a low voice, "Send Su Xiaoxiao to Africa to mine. She's not allowed to come back until she digs up a gold mine." Qin Ruoshuang was stunned for 3 seconds, then puffed, laughed out loud. She laughed so hard she bent over, and tears came out her eyes. "Okay, I'll arrange it tomorrow." With the internal conflict resolved, it was time for external enemies. I told Qin Ruoshuang to rest and recover in the Northwest, and I would take care of things at the company. I used her phone to send a WeChat message to that Zhang Yang. "Young Master Zhang, I've admired you for a long time. I'm Lin Feng, Qin Ruoshuang's boyfriend. I heard you want to get engaged to my girlfriend." Zhang Yang's phone call came within 3 seconds. As soon as the call was connected, there was a roar. "Who the hell are you? How dare you touch my woman? Do you believe I'll make you disappear from the face of the earth?" "Oh," I smiled. Young Master Zhang has quite the temper. However, I'm the kind of person who likes to challenge the impossible. How about this? I'll give you 3 days to cancel the engagement and disappear from Ruoshuang's sight. Otherwise, be prepared to bear the consequences. I'll bear your mother." Zhang Yang cursed on the other end. I ignored him and hung up the phone. Then, I spent an afternoon organizing all the dirt on Zhang's group and the terrible things Zhang Yang himself had done that I had collected over the past 8 years into a file package. Back then, when I was by Qin Ruoshuang's side, dealing with these dirty jobs was my specialty. I anonymously sent the file package to several media outlets that were in competition with Zhang's group, as well as the tax and industrial and commercial departments. After doing all this, I stretched and felt refreshed. To deal with a rogue, you have to use means that are more rogue than the rogue. Civility cannot solve the problem. 3 days later, news of Zhang's group's tax evasion, and financial fraud spread like wildfire. Zhang Yang himself was also taken away by the police for investigation due to a series of scandals such as gang fights and drug use. The Zhang family was in a mess and unable to help themselves, so the engagement with the Qin family naturally fell through. After Qin Old Master found out, he called me in front of him, looked at me silently for a long time, and finally sighed. "Young man, good methods." I smiled slightly. "Old Master, you flatter me. I'm just taking back what belongs to me." The storm subsided. Qin Ruoshuang's hand also healed. I drove my Wuling Hongguang, carrying her to the airport. It was the same road, but the mood was completely different. "Lin Feng, are we really going to drive this car back to headquarters?" Qin Ruoshuang looked at the Deja Vu sticker on the car with a complicated expression. "Of course," I said righteously. "This is our hero. It witnessed the beginning of our love." "What beginning of love? It was clearly the beginning of my social death," she muttered softly. I smiled and started the car. The corny DJ music started again. This time, Qin Ruoshuang didn't let me turn it off, but instead lightly swayed her head to the rhythm. The sunlight poured in through the car window, shining on her smiling face, very warm. The day we returned to headquarters, the entire company came out to welcome us. When they saw President Qin get out of a broken Wuling Hongguang, and the person driving the car was me, everyone had the same shocked expression as Wang Dachui. Qin Ruoshuang and I walked into the company gate side by side. She suddenly stopped, stood on her tiptoes in front of everyone, and kissed me on the cheek. "Welcome back, my chief assistant." The whole place erupted. I looked at her slightly flushed cheeks and smiled. "Yes, ma'am, my CEO." As for Su Xiao, she was really packed up by Qin Ruoshuang and sent to Africa. But not to mine, but to be responsible for market development there. It is said that she now posts photos of herself singing and dancing with African brothers on Moments every day, and it looks quite happy. And I returned to the position of president's assistant. But this time, I am no longer the humble simp. During the day, I am her most capable assistant. At night, I am her only driver, chef, and pillow. Life seemed to have returned to the starting point, but everything had become different. That night, I drove the newly bought Lamborghini, carrying Qin Ruoshuang to eat osmanthus cake in the south of the city. She suddenly asked me, "Lin Feng, do you still want to go back to the Northwest?" I thought about it. I thought about the Northwest wind, the Northwest clouds, the Northwest lamb skewers, and that group of lovely colleagues. I smiled. "Edo." But I turned to look at her, holding her hand. "Where you are is home."